Hello and welcome to another episode of Metal Dude, Mentally Defective Ones. I'm your host, Chuck Parnell. With me as always, Laverne to my Shirley, Mick Rotella.
Hello, lovelies, hello.
Again, American, British, we have no
You know
clue.
what, I gotta say something about that though. I gotta say hi to a friend of mine who actually lives in England,
I was gonna say,
Emma
they're from-
Kent. Actually, she's from the same town Slash is from. I can never pronounce it right. It's like Trent. I don't know. I read the book. You read the book, so
Yeah, we'll have
whatever
to
it is.
read it
Anyway,
again.
hello. I'm sorry. Hello. Hello, baby. Anyway, I just had to throw that in there.
Been up to anything recently or that you want to talk about, don't want to talk about?
You know, yeah. I mean, there's been a lot of stuff going on, a lot of band stuff for me. Happening. We're working on 2 CDs right now. Hopefully, come out in 2015. Another thing I've been kind of getting into is, are you familiar with Jason Becker at all, the guitar player?
Yep.
Phenomenal guy. If you guys don't know who he is, go
it out.
check him out. He's amazing. Not only is he a phenomenal guitar player, and he was so young when this happened, but he was diagnosed fairly early on with, I think it was ALS, right? That's Lou Gehrig's disease?
I believe so, yeah.
And now he's wheelchair bound and can't really do much, but he still
that
does.
sucks.
It is, but he still writes music, and he still is alive. And actually, his biography movie is called "Still Alive," I think. You know? So, and I had to say that because a friend of mine, Sean Reed, keeps pushing him on me, and so I had to kind of go back and check that out. So that's kind of what I've been listening to, and the guy's just phenomenal. So go check him out and see what he's all about. Other than that. Dude, I need to know what's up with that shirt, man.
Oh, I'm glad you asked.
The first thing is it's so clean.
Right, exactly. Brand new.
You just pulled it out of the package tonight, didn't you?
Yep.
All right. I helped him put it on. So.
Well, where the wife works across the street, she's been waiting for this place to open and found out that it was going to be a brewery, like a little tap room.
Do we need more beer stuff?
Oh,
Yes.
definitely.
Yes, we do.
Exactly. It was called the Urban Growler in St. Paul.
Mm-hmm.
The address, 2325 Endicott Street in St. Paul. Place is just phenomenal. Tap room, they brew their own beer. It's the only, I believe it's the only microbrewery owned by all women.
Oh, really?
And one of the best slogans in the world, we're beer for you, instead of we're here for you.
Beer for you. I need that as a tattoo.
We're beer for you.
And actually, so do they do the, like, you brew your own stuff, that kind of thing, or is it just they brew their own?
They brew their own.
Okay.
It's microbrew. They got all sorts of stuff. There's some pumpkin thing, of course, that they had from seasonal. I believe they have 3 or 4 that are consistent, and then they rotate a couple ones. They usually have about 6 or so, and they rotate it based on seasonal.
No,
Seasonal deal.
Now, I don't think we've ever mentioned this, but you actually brew your own beer.
Started, yeah.
Started beer. And actually, he let me try some, and I think I remember the next day.
All right. Did it stay down?
It stayed down.
Oh, that's
actually,
good.
it was pretty good, man. He kept pressuring me to have some. I'm like, oh god, home brewers, whatever, man. It was actually really good. I
I want
enjoyed
your
it.
sick beer. Get it away from me.
Your sick beer. It was green. But yeah, it was actually pretty good, man.
Thank
So
you.
I keep meaning to give you that bottle back, but
Yeah, I need the bottle back so I can
that's
clean
why I
it.
haven't gotten any more, because I haven't gotten the bottle
That's
back.
right.
To you,
I haven't been able to fill up your bottle. Well, tonight we've got a special guest with us, our first special guest ever on Metal Dude, Mr. Tank from Outlaw Saint, local band. Guy's been around Minnesota in numerous bands. I'm sure everybody knows this man. Tank, how you been there, Chief?
Doing pretty good. Thank
That's
you for
good.
having me on, man.
Oh, no problem. Anything coming up with Outlaw Saint or anything
Well,
you
as
got
a matter
going
of fact,
on?
we unfortunately just lost our drummer yesterday.
Which was a theme for this guy. We were just talking about this. He's through like 85 drummers or something. What do you make this guy like move all the equipment or something? You guys can't,
We've lost 5 drummers, 4 guitar players, 2 bass players,
the saxophone player, the kazoo player.
and all this since 2011.
Wow.
He's a hard ass to work for, man. I
No,
thought
it's
about
not-
joining,
it's not
man,
so
but
much
I don't
that-
know.
It's not so much that I'm a hard ass. It's just basically the band itself is a very unique band. It's just we work hard. It's just they have to be dedicated. And don't get me wrong, you know, some of the people who have left, you know, they had jobs that, you know, they needed to maintain to, you know, support their family, and I have absolutely no problem with that.
Right.
So it's just like, you know, but with this band, you know, we just want people who are dedicated enough, you know, at least to, you know, be able to go with our hectic schedule.
Right.
I've always said that being in a band is harder than a marriage, because being in a marriage, you're only dealing with one girl. I say it a different way.
Yeah, see, I've always heard that too. It's, like, it's hard enough being married to one person. A band is like being married to 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Or in case my 5.
Yeah, yeah. So it gets pretty difficult, man. So I can appreciate, you know, that it's hard, man. Everybody has different visions. Everybody has different goals and the way they see things, and it's tough to keep it all together, you know. So
that's funny. Any shows coming up in 2015 or anything?
No, we are. We're going on hiatus in January. Our one guitar player is actually going to Florida for his annual vacation, all month. When he comes back in February, we are going to be looking for a drummer and then a lead guitar player. And then we actually got studio time all ready to go.
Sweet.
We got enough songs, so it's just a matter of getting the 2 new members, getting them up to par with the songs, and then we're going in to record our debut album.
Sweet.
So are you guys doing new stuff? Like, is it stuff that you've already done, or is it stuff that you're writing now?
Oh, no, actually, it's pretty much almost all of it is going to be stuff that's already been done.
Okay.
None of our songs have really been. We did a 4-song EP a while back, but we had a guitar player who's a shredder that put on a different tone. You know, that sort of changed around the songs a little bit. You know, to the point where we're going like, no, it's just not working. You know, it doesn't work. I mean, we pride ourselves in a sound that's very similar to Aerosmith and Guns N' Roses.
Right.
And it's just like, you know, that's basically the type of musicians that we're looking for, and that's the type of sound. So basically, we do have room just in case that we get the new members in, and let's just say that, oh, we're jamming, and hey, we're just coming up writing a new song. You know, chances are if that happens, that will find itself on the album.
Right. That's cool.
You know, and speaking of all that, and I've certainly been around and recorded a lot of stuff. When you guys write, what's your process for songwriting? How does it come? Do you have something? Do you have words? Does somebody have music? How do you go about that?
Usually it depends on the song. Most of the songs I actually brought in from other projects that I've worked on, but in most cases, they'll come up with a little jam, and it's just like, you know, hey, I'll have lyrics, you know, they'll fit right to it. Okay. We have one song that actually came around by accident. It was the original lineup of Outlaw Saint, and we're in the studio. And we're practicing for a little bit, and then the next thing you know, we're done. You know, we finish the song, and the 2 guitar players decide to start chatting. So we're going like, oh, great, you know.
Who wants to hear that?
Exactly. So the drummer,
Jimi Hendrix, Randy Rhoads.
So the drummer starts, you know, just jamming around, you know, just practicing a little bit. Here's the bass player. He's going like, you know, he's just practicing on, you know, a little lick or whatnot. And all of a sudden, I was the first one to realize that. I'm going like, wait a minute, those 2 things are actually going really well together. The next thing you know, the 2 guitar players stop right in mid-sentence, look at everyone going like, okay, so they put on the guitars. We start jamming. And as it turns out, I had this one song that I written years and years and years ago. And I had the verses all figured out. And it was just like, I just happened to be thinking about that song at that moment when this, you know, this whole thing is going on. And all of a sudden I realized, oh, wait a minute, these lyrics work perfectly. But unfortunately, you know, in the past when I was trying to write, you know, the song, I couldn't figure out what the chorus was going to be. And then all of a sudden, here we are, and it's just like, you know, I'm singing through the first verse, and all of a sudden I'm going like, let's get it. And it's just like the words just came right then and there. It's just like, boom, it just popped right in my head, and I'm going like, yes, yes.
That's cool when it falls into place. You ever do something like you've written a song, you've written some lines, and you're like, yeah, this is how it's gonna go, and then another song comes up, and you're like, God, you know, I could really use that line over there, but you don't want to rob it. But you're like, this wasn't on Led Zeppelin 4. Forget it. It's, you know, bring it over there. You ever do anything like that where you rob stuff?
I can't say I've done anything like that, but there was one time one of our songs came around where it was just like, you know, I had these lyrics, I had this idea, you know, all figured out for the melody itself, and all of a sudden here's the guitar player. He's playing something completely different, and it was just like, he said, hey, and I had used to have this lyric book full of 200 songs that I'd written over a 10-year basis, right? And all these songs had the lyrics and they had the basic rhythm to them. But I don't know music, so it's just like,
I just on the page like boom, boom, da, da, da.
It's like, it's just like I could actually do it, hum out the actual rhythm to itself, but I couldn't tell you, oh, there's A to G, G to A. It's just like, And so all of a sudden it was just like, he's going like, well, go through that lyrics and see if it'll work with this little lick right here. So he's playing through the lick, and I'm just looking through the lyrics, and all of a sudden, boom, all of a sudden these lyrics pop out going like, wait a minute. This actually works. And that one became our song Cell Number 9.
Okay.
Right. So yeah, it's just one of those things. It's just like one of the songs that we wrote, I actually had a hand in writing it in the aspect that I was humming it out. And the guitar player at the time, it was just like, him and I, we said, okay, let's get together, let's write some songs. I told him I already have this idea for this one song. He said, okay, cool. And I'm listening through all these, I have all these MP3s on my computer, and such. And I came across a song by Britney Fox.
Right.
Of an obscure album, their third album, Bite Down. And
I thought they only had those 2 songs, the 2 that I know. That's the only ones that I knew. Yeah, their debut, The Long Way to Love and Girls' School, right? I listen to bands like that, and I like Britney Fox, and I love that era. But I always wonder, why did we have to sing like that? Why do we have to Girls' School? I was like, what is the same thing with like Tom Kiefer? I don't understand. When he sings like normal, it's great, and then and I'm like, who thought that? Do that, baby. That's gonna be $1 million seller right there.
Hey, it worked for Axl Rose, man.
He's different though. He never did that. He's got.
He did.
No, he was
had
more
the high
controlled.
screech.
Well, he did, but he had like 5 different voices.
That's true.
Yeah. I remember when they had come out, friends of mine were like, you got Welcome to the Jungle. And then It's So Easy. And they're like, wow, Slash is singing.
Actually, it was Izzy.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, there's certain things like that. I remember seeing, obviously we're all big Kiss fans, and I remember seeing Kiss for the first time. I thought for maybe the first year or two, I was like, oh, Ace Frehley, that's a girl. He seems so feminine. You just don't know. And same thing with, I remember being in like what was the big music store in the 80s? The music, I can't remember. Anyway, picked up
Musicland.
Picked up the Poison's debut record. And I remember showing my buddy, like, look at these girls, man. God, they're so gorgeous. Hey, what are their names? You flip it over like Bobby, Ricky, Cece, and I'm like,
Everybody did that. I was with a buddy of mine. I was like, these chicks are hot. And he goes, yeah, they are.
don't crush my dreams.
Well, we have Motley Crue and Rat to blame for that.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It just kind of got turned out. It kind of went like, you look at Crue in the beginning, and they were really street and kind of hardcore, and then they, after a while, Vince is wearing garter belts and pink pants, and it's like, I think they just try to
my one thing.
my one thing. I'm ripping you off, man.
I know. Of course, you say street. I mean, I'm wondering who was running around in like leather pants and the spikes and everything, running around in the streets.
It was Los Angeles in the '80s, man.
All right, I'll give you that.
You never know what they were going. I mean, I lived there in the '70s, so I can't really say. But the '80s, I mean.
Well, I remember seeing Theater of Pain, and at first I thought the image was great. My dad's looking at me, he goes, why is he wearing a garter belt?
What's
I was
that?
Like, what do you mean? I was 12, 11, something like that. He's like, well, the white thing down here around his waist, it's a garter belt to hold up women's hose. I'm like, well, I don't know why he's wearing that. And I think that's the only photo shoot that he ever wore this. I don't think he ever wore it on stage. I don't think he ever wore it on anything else.
Well, I think back then everybody was, what I'm gonna do. If you're gonna wear a garter belt, I'm gonna wear, backwards G-string. I don't know, whatever it is.
I'd love to know who in the world talked him into this.
Well, I don't think he probably didn't have to talk into much. I mean, you're high, you're drunk, you're trying to do this thing, and like everybody's gonna love it.
You put this white belt on.
Yeah, he probably told him it's a belt.
Right, but Tommy Lee in a couple of his earlier photos actually had a black garter belt on.
Did he?
Yeah, it's just like you could actually see the straps.
Really?
Yeah.
I gotta look at this up now. Oh God.
Well, and then the funny thing is when they came out with Girls, 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 I believe, is that when Tommy and Nikki both got sleeved?
I think so.
Because
Yeah, around
I
that.
remember seeing them. Then it was like their shirts off all the time and black leather pants. And at that time, I don't remember seeing anybody sleeved before. At least it wasn't that. And I thought that was the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Wanna get a
They
bunch
didn't
of
have like
koi
one
fish
tattoo,
tattooed
like
on
it was
you.
all, you know what I mean? And then now it's just too much.
Look at my lake scene underwater.
Yeah. Well, he was like, he's got a leopard in there, and I think there's a mouse running around there. That's cool, you know.
Mickey Mouse.
Yeah,
No,
it is.
No, no, it's Mighty Mouse.
Mighty
through a
Mouse.
drum. He's got the
Yep,
drumsticks
through the drum.
going
That was
through
his
the
first tattoo.
And you know, I mean, it's like they, God, man, almost everything they did was awesome. But now that we look back at it, we go, okay, shout out the devil, awesome. I'm not so sure about the Pink Garter stuff. You know, the next time. You
I
know,
like Theater of Pain. I
you
love
know,
that album.
even they kind of dogged that record, but I mean that was
Yeah.
that was a huge thing for me. You know, that it was. I mean, Shout was big, but it didn't put them in the stratosphere like Theater of Pain. That was when you knew that they arrived. I mean, Home Sweet Home is.
Well, yeah.
Come on.
It's the longest running, Veet or MTV's
Video. It was
video
over a
thing.
year, right?
Yeah.
I know we used to call in every day, and we'd seen the video a million times.
Yeah.
But we'd still be like, hey, let's go and watch whatever it was called. You know, it wasn't TRL at the time, but like we'd still watched
top
it every
10
day.
videos of the day or whatever.
And we still called in every day, you know. And then they're finally like, you know what, we need to get this off here because we got a new Whitney Houston video we got to play. So. And you know what? And that's another thing too. That was a video that took over after they took that off. It was Whitney Houston. Then they
Yeah.
tried saying, "Oh, well, she had to retire too." So,
Yep.
like, get out of here, man. It was cruel.
And then
you know?
GNR came out and ruined everybody with Sweet Child of Mine.
No, Nirvana came out after that. And ruined
Well,
everything.
yeah. Well,
You know, the thing about Guns N' Roses too is like totally in the '80s. I had like the big LA hair, so I had the big Nikki Sixx thing,
Right.
and then everybody's doing it up and everything. Guns N' Roses came out and you're like, huh, I'm gonna wear my hair down, and it's just the way it was. Trendsetters, man. That's what they were.
Although Axl started off with the poofy hair,
Yep.
as you've seen in
He
Welcome
did.
to the Jungle.
He did, and they kind of like to downplay
Assless
that whole
chaps.
glam thing, but they actually were part of it a little bit.
They started off as a glam band. They got sick of it, and so they decided to do the more, the more leather.
rootsy and all that.
Denim and leather look.
It worked, I mean, they're still. I mean, as crazy as Guns N' Roses is now, people still want to know from them.
Axl's
you
solo
know.
project.
Yeah, Axl Rose just had a death hoax a couple days ago.
You posted that, and I wanted to put up there and go, it's fake.
Well, the whole thing was it came from. I thought it came from one of those news channels. It was like MSB, NBC, or something like that. So
Right.
it's just like I'm going like, okay, it has to have a little bit of credit. That's why I see it there. Is this really happening? And then
That
when I
happens.
found out when I found out it was a death hoax, I'm going like, okay, all right,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I spread a rumor. I am so sorry.
No, you just
wanted-
wanted to jump on the. I want to be first. I know what's going on.
I wanted to be the
Rock and roll.
jerk that, like, part of me was hoping it was true, so I could see, there is no GNR reunion. I told you people, it's not going to happen.
You always find a way to kind of piss on everybody's parade.
My job.
I know, and that's the charm about it. You either like that or you don't. I'm not saying I like it, but I can deal with it.
I just,
Okay, I like it.
I'd hate to see a reunion. It'd be cool, but it's just kind of, the heyday is gone.
I really was. I was really kind of thinking for the longest time that it would happen. I thought you couldn't convince me otherwise until the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction, and
Yeah.
he wrote that note, and I thought, you know what, I'm beyond this. I don't, I don't need to see it now. And everybody else, within reason, has successful careers anyway. So you don't want to kind of see a half-assed version of it. You wanted to see the real thing. I was lucky enough to see them, the original members, and then on the Use Your Illusion tour a couple years later. So I'm glad I at least got to see them live at least once or twice.
Rub it in, thank you, appreciate it.
Oh, you saw him once. Oh, that's right. the
No,
one.
I saw him in a song and a half. Opened for Motley Crue, and then it was done. And then they were banned for 10 years because Axl jumped off the stage. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me,
I
really?
got news for you. That show lasted almost an hour before he did that. I saw the video on YouTube. There was an actual. You're talking about the one where he goes in to
What?
get the cameraman. They actually had a whole show, and then he cut it. He cut it short.
No, this was in Atlanta. It was when they were opening for Motley Crue.
Oh, okay.
It was It's So Easy. I forget what the next song was. In the middle of the second song, he jumps off. and they're gone for
Probably
about
Nitro.
10 minutes. Then Izzy comes out and sung some Bob Dylan song or whatever, and then they were done. And the interesting postscript to the story, when I met Duff at his book signing, you weren't supposed to ask for personalized anything, and I'm just kind of like, do you mind personalizing? He goes, yeah, what do you want me to say? Chuck, sorry about Atlanta. He goes, yeah, what happened? I started telling him. I was like, dude, I knew who you were before anybody else did, based on buying the album, based on the cover, listened to it, thought it was the greatest thing in the world. Song and a half, he jumps off, and he goes, oh, I remember that, and tells me the whole story. It was great, and he just signed the book, and they're like, you need to leave. And Duff's like, well, no, he's okay. And then what happened was this, and then this. You need to leave. No, he's okay. And then and they just kept me on there for like 5 minutes. It was great.
We were talking about, before we started taping, about Duff's book and how me and you have read it. You haven't read it
Nope,
yet,
I haven't
right?
read it yet.
Great book. And one of the things I'm always kind of shocked about is just how much drugs and alcohol these guys really can take. And Duff in his book says, for 10 years, I drank 1.5 gallons of vodka a day.
Yep.
I couldn't move without that. And I'm thinking, I couldn't drink 1.5 gallons of water, pop, or anything else, let alone vodka, you know what I mean?
Right.
And still be coherent, And this guy's got, he's got a master's degree in finance now or whatever. I mean, probably one of the smartest guys in rock and roll, period.
Yeah.
And he's such a nice guy. His book is really full of a lot of twisted heartbreak and kind of this punk sensibility to be who you are, not care about what's going on. And I actually kind of shocked once you read that he was actually in Guns N' Roses. I really would have thought he would have been more kind of towards the punk thing, but I think that was one of the greatest things about them is all 5 of those guys originally were really different and came together to make that. I mean, no matter what happens to them right now or what's going on, one of the greatest records and one of the greatest bands of all
yeah.
time.
Oh, yeah.
Top 5, if not top 2 or 3 even. Yeah.
Speaking of top 5,
Yes.
high five.
We'll let our guest go first. This is high 5. I shouldn't say top, pardon me. High 5, what do we call it? Frontman?
Frontman, singer.
Singer,
well,
yeah.
Frontman, singer, something.
Great.
One of those. Tank, go.
Tank, what do you got? We just mentioned
Axl
this to him
Rose.
5 minutes before we started recording. Sorry,
Axl
go.
Rose, David Lee Roth,
Oh.
Bruce Dickinson. I'm gonna have to say it. He's not really a singer, but the way he does the show is, I still consider a frontman, type scenario.
Right.
Angus Young
Yep.
of AC/DC. The way that he's pretty much the one that everyone's focusing on.
I agree with
Damn,
that.
I should have gone first. You're stealing my thunder with that.
And finally, and I can't stress this enough, Bret Michaels of Poison. People can dog on him all you want.
He is one hot chick.
I'd hit that.
Not so much Bret Michaels, but the entire band Poison. I saw them 1999 in Chicago. Free show, just like, a friend of mine had free tickets. She said, all you gotta do, drive down there overnight to the show in my car, she said. So it's just like free room and board, the whole 9 yards. And it was just like, and I'd seen many 80s bands, before then. I'd seen Warrant a couple times, a couple other ones as well. And it was just like, out of all of them, Poison, here they were, all of them were just all over the stage. It was just like, they put on a terrific show. And they were actually one of my influences as far as the show that I put on. It was just like when I saw that and I came back to the cities and I'm going like, I've been performing for about 3 years at the time, trying to find out who I was, starting to realize, okay, well, I wasn't really the best singer in the world.
Get a rhythm down on stage kind of deal.
Right, and it's just like all of a sudden, I'm watching these guys and I'm going like, that's what I'm going to do. It's just like, I may not have the voice, but, I'm going to start moving around the stage like that. And it was just like, so to me, Bret Michaels definitely has to be put on that list.
Poison was one of the best shows I had seen. I want to say it was 88. It was Open Up and Say Ah tour. First time I ever saw them, and they were great.
They're also one of those bands that made me realize that no matter how well or how much you're hated at one point, after a while, that if enough time goes by, you will actually become kind of legendary. Because a lot of people liked Poison right away, then they kind of fell out of popularity, and people were like, oh, Poison. And Motley Crue did the same thing. 20 years goes by, now it's like, oh yeah, Poison's coming to town. I'm gonna go check them out. Because I've only recently seen them, probably in the last 3-4 years, and damn good show. I agree with everything you guys had said about them.
Well, as a matter of fact, the show I went to in '99 was their first reunion with CeCe DeVille since he left the band. And I found out later that that tour was by far one of the most lucrative tours of that year.
Wow.
That was the tour that made the highest grossing tour of that year.
That's cool.
Was that the one where it was like Winger and Dokken or something like that?
No, actually, the one I saw was they were followed, or they were the ones who opened up were Rat, L.A. Guns, the original lineup, Great White, and there was another one I don't remember.
Why didn't I go to that? I totally would have been there. You want me to go next?
Yep.
My high five would be, again, in no particular, I agree with you, Axl Rose, definitely. There's really not much more to be said about that. And I would put...
Crazy Dance.
Yeah.
I am one of the few people in the Twin Cities that can actually do his dance.
And we don't want to see that. Anyway. Paul Stanley. Really don't have to say a whole lot about that. It's Paul Stanley. Everybody else pales in his second. He's the godfather of it all. I'd also put Ozzy on there. That might be a little cliche, but it's Ozzy, man. What are you gonna do? I'd put also Rob Halford. Although I like what you said about Bruce Dickinson. I think those two together, just unbelievably amazing. And as far as frontmen go, Marilyn Manson. I'd have to give it some of the greatest shows I've ever seen, and just knows just kind of, his place, his power, and how everything goes. I'm not saying he's the best singer, best writer, best songs, but as a frontman and what he does, man, there's very few people I think that do better than him.
Right. I agree with that. I gotta say, David Lee Roth, by far. Maybe not as much now, but of course at one time was just wonderful. He was just awesome.
Yeah.
To go along with Tank's Angus Young deal, Scott Ian. Not a singer. Not saying that for a reason or anything. I'm just saying, Scott Ian to me, guy's running around constantly, not really singing, not really a front man, but along the same lines as Angus Young.
I guess I'd probably agree with you guys both on the whole Angus Young, Scott Ian thing, where they're not the singer, but they're the band, kind of. You know what I mean? I don't think there would be an Anthrax without Scott.
No.
But there could be different other people in there. So interesting points, both of you guys, for that.
What was it? Bruce Dickinson. I agree with that. The other thing with Halford that I thought was great is he's not the guy that runs around, but it's the way he walks, the way he struts, for lack of a better term.
He's kind of got like a gait to him that's just, it just reminds you it's powerful, and he's not arrogant, but he knows the power he holds. He just knows. Like
the video for Love Bites, where he's walking down the stairs and he just has this "don't mess with me" mentality. Kind of tied between Paul Stanley, agree with you, and Vince Neil. Don't really like Vince Neil's voice live, but again, the way he works the crowd, the way he's running around, the way he's keeping everything together, keeps everything going.
Now, you know what we should do? We should probably lay some money down. Both of you, yes or no? Motley Crue just came through here a couple weeks back. I was there. Do you really believe it's the last show or not?
No.
I don't either.
I believe that they're going to be so popular that they're going to add on to the tour. So technically, it'll still be the last tour, but they'll just keep on adding on, like what Guns N' Roses did during Use Your Illusion. It's just like they were so it was so popular that they just they went back to the place that they were at months before, but technically it was still the same tour.
And then they always talked. They always knew. We always heard deep down they knew once they stopped, it was done. It was over. There wasn't going to be any more GNR. There wasn't going to be any more tour. There wasn't going to be anything. And so that they kept going just to keep it alive, so to speak.
Yeah, I honestly think that, yes, I agree with you. I know that's what's going to happen. As a matter of fact, if you look on their tour dates now, next year there's a whole lot of things open. At the end of the year, I believe they're supposed to be coming home to do their final stuff, but during the year they're supposed to be doing a lot. But I think even beyond that, I think give these guys a couple years and they'll be back, you know. They don't know anything else.
Dumb as it sounds, I wish they'd hurry up and get this movie done that they keep talking about.
I just read today, and I forgot about this. It's supposed to be out next year. It's supposed to coincide with their last dates of the tour. That's supposed to come out and their album,
right?
And the final part of the tour. You know what I mean? So I'm dying to see the movie.
Right.
We were talking earlier about books and stuff, and The Dirt was brought up, and the greatest book for rock bands at all, you know. So I'm hoping, what I've read about the movie is they're not going to make it a comedy. It's not supposed to be a goof. It's supposed to be really hardcore bad, you know.
Wow.
It's supposed to be
really
like
dramatized.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be, hey, we're goofs and we did all this stuff. It's really supposed to show the bad side of everything.
Wow.
You know, so I'm really hoping that that's what happens. You know? Because as badass as they are, I mean, they went through some really serious stuff, you know. So, you know, hopefully that next year, and I don't want them to stop touring, man. I don't care. I'll go to a small club and see him, man. I love him so much, you know.
Now, would you go if something happens to Mick and they bring in a guitar player?
Wow, good question. Yeah, I'd probably go anyway. I mean, I love Mick, you know, a lot, and I wouldn't want anything to happen. But I have a feeling it wouldn't be him. I have a feeling it would be one of the other ones.
Really?
You know,
something happens to Mick and Kiss gets rid of Thayer, and they bring in Ace back, and Thayer joins Motley Crue. You gonna be all right?
Oh, dude, why, don't bring up Thayer, man. Come on. Why Thayer? Why are you doing this to me, man? Thayer, yeah, I could see him scabbing out to anything. You know, he's you know, Tony Iommi goes down. He's in Black Sabbath. He's got the mustache, and you know.
Karabi comes back as a guitar player because he always says he's a guitar player more than a singer.
I will say this though, man. I'll say this. You know, was at the Crue show. You guys didn't go to that, right?
No.
Okay, one of the coolest
things. He didn't give me a
things.
ticket for some reason.
One of the coolest things that I saw is Tommy's drum solo. Always fantastic. But do you know what the music he was playing?
No.
At the very beginning,
what?
It was Hooligan's Holiday.
Really?
And Karabi was singing. And I was like, oh my God. You know, he's playing a drum solo and Karabi's singing, and nobody else got that. But I was like, yeah! Yeah! You know?
I can just picture everybody around you. What is this?
Well, they just thought it was atmospheric music. It was like maybe like 1% of us got that. And I was just like, that's for me. You know, I know what's going on. It was only, you know, a few bars of the song, but it was great to hear that, man.
That's sweet.
You know. So, you know, the kind of weird thing about that is they ended the show with Home Sweet Home.
Right.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of down. You know what I mean? They played
anticlimactic.
Yeah, and it was cool, and you know, for them it's different and awesome and everything. But you know, I just kind of thought it was odd. But my friend had saw him a couple months earlier and said, no, they didn't end with that. They ended with something else. So maybe they kind of spin the.
They rotated around.
Yeah, and you know that I give them respect for doing.
Maybe you
stuff
missed
like
the encore.
Yeah.
You left too early.
Maybe.
Just to get back on the Tank, you had mentioned you saw Poison, got your feel. How'd you get started in all this to begin with?
Well, actually, I technically started in theater at 3rd grade.
Okay.
I was in a
Acting.
Yep, the theater. I absolutely loved it. I was in for 3rd grade. I actually had a dual role in the play. You know,
Dr.
really
Jekyll,
enjoyed
Mr.
it.
Hyde.
Santa and
Dr.
Claus.
Jekyll, Mr. Hyde.
Yeah. No, a strong man and a policeman, as a matter of fact.
All right.
So it's just like, you know, if you go a few years without it, and then about 2 years later, I start up again in theater. And I actually go for 7 years, from 5th grade all the way until 12th grade. And 12th grade, you know, I graduated, and I did like one show locally at the time, you know, for a little bit. And then I'm going like, to myself, I love theater, but there's just something missing. You know, just can't, you know, figure out what it was. And then I started realizing, I went into college right away, I went to Brown Institute for radio TV broadcasting. I was going to be a DJ.
He helped us out here tonight.
Yeah.
Dude, that was 20 years ago, okay? I think the technology here is sort of...
He's running one of the cameras now.
So it's just like, but by the time I graduated about a year and a half later, at that time it dawned on me I would rather make music than broadcast it.
Right.
And so, I tried starting a band, and we were practicing over at City Sound, I think it was.
Oh, yeah.
The original City Sound in the factory.
Did you guys have a name yet or no?
No, at the time we didn't have a name. We were just, we didn't know what we wanted to do. At the time we were thinking maybe we'll do covers, or whatnot.
What year was this?
Oh, go ahead.
What year was this?
That was 1996.
It'd be nice. I wish you guys had a name. It'd be fun to see what kind of goofy name you guys came up with.
Yeah.
Nothing with that. Just every band, like when you start, they all have like goofy names.
The Black Murderers.
The Black.
All right, it's always like something 69.
Well, my band name, very first band name when I was gonna be a musician and become rich and famous. I don't know where I got the name. It's called Cinch. C-I-N-C-H. I have no idea where this came from.
Totally
Thought it was
stealing
the
that.
coolest thing in the world at 14. I'm like, oh yeah, this is great. Now I look back, I was like, God, this sounds ridiculous.
Now, did you know when you did that? So you're alone. I don't have a band yet, but I got a name. Did you go around saying, yeah, I'm in a band. I got a band.
Of
Did you do
course.
that? Absolutely.
Dude, I had the logo drawn up and everything on graph paper so everything could be straight because I didn't want to use a ruler.
Yeah. Well, we all do that. I still do that now. Yeah, I'm in a band.
So you're debating on covers or originals?
We were debating on covers and originals, and right next door we had a UKI playing, which was actually Chainsaw Kane from Slave Raider.
Right.
It was his band after. It was his second band after Slave Raider. Yeah, he actually was Chainsaw, and then they changed their names to UKI.
Now, just because you mentioned Slave Raider, the one thing I'd love to know, to me, this is kind of like everybody that's like an SOD fan going up to like Scotty and going, dude, I saw you at the Budokan with SOD, who they've never played at the Budokan. I'd love to know how many people that sit there and go, man, I remember Slave Raider. Oh, when I saw them at whatever, or when I saw them here, how many people actually saw Slave Raider as Slave Raider? So one thing I'd love to know.
Yeah, it wasn't me.
It wasn't me either.
So it's just like they were talking about they're starting this brand new thing, this brand new idea, and they called it Amateur Band Jam Night. Now nowadays we call it Open Jam,
Right.
Or as I like to call it, Live Band Karaoke.
Yep.
It was just like, you know exactly what I'm talking about,
Karaoke.
right? I was at the very first one that they ever did,
Right.
and it was just like, and the funny thing about
What
it,
song did you play?
The very first song I ever did was Night Train by Guns N' Roses.
I was gonna say, look what the cat dragged in.
Nope, that was not until later. That
Unskinny
wasn't
Bob.
until about a couple years later. But it was just like, the one thing about Happy,
I'm waiting for him to do Talk Dirty to Me.
I've already done that too.
That's the one song you can't stand, though, right?
I know, but I still
Yeah.
do it. It's one of those things where they're going like, dude, we know you know how to do it, just do it. that and For Whom the Bell Tolls, and I still don't know all the words to that one.
You can muddle through that one.
I always muddle through that one. So it's just like, Happy. And the thing that caught me off guard was when I first met Happy, he was really down to earth. He spoke really quietly, type thing. But it was just like all of a sudden I saw him play on stage as UKI, and I'm going like, whoa, dude! I mean, this guy was all over the place. And what I didn't realize at the time was that planted the seed in my head as far as the whole frontman thing is concerned. I didn't realize that at the time. But it was when I saw Poison 3 years later, I'm going like, okay, that's what I want to do. So when I came back, I started sort of studying after Happy. I didn't copy him by any means, but I took a lot of what he did on stage, and I'm going like, okay, well, I'll just modify it a little bit and make it my own.
And a lot of what bugs me about bands, and it's all levels, is it bothers me when they don't. It's a show. Put on a show.
Right.
Don't look at your instrument and don't look down. It bothers me when I see that, and I always try to say something to local bands. I'm like, look at your audience. Don't look down. You're not looking introspective. You're just looking like you're bored. You know what I
Right.
mean? So we've played shows together. So
Yep.
I know what you're talking about. He's all over the place. So
There's been one popular band that I saw that didn't move at all. It was Alice in Chains opening up for the Clash of the Titans tour. They all just stayed in one spot and didn't move at all. But it was a great show.
It's one of those. It was the same thing with Lynyrd Skynyrd. Lynyrd Skynyrd, you know, especially the front of Van Zandt, didn't do a whole lot of moving around, but there was something about his stance. It was,
right.
it was his. He had the charisma.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, it was just like, you know, he just. I don't know. It's just he was one of those few guys that didn't have to move around.
Yep.
For you to actually, you know, enjoy the show.
But they also don't look bored either. They don't look like they're afraid to look
Right.
at their audience, which is kind of my big thing about that is you know, make contact, and that's, you feel a connection when that happens.
If they look up, they'll go into shock.
They're gonna hear me. Yeah, it's kind of funny, you know. I mean, I guess there are certain, you know, bands that, you know, are not going to move around. I don't think Rush moves around a whole lot, you know.
Kenny Lee does.
Well, I mean, but not.
Yeah.
He's not crazy about, you know. He's not rolling on the ground like Paul Stanley.
Well, no.
You know.
Well, this is the one thing that I've noticed. I have this saying. It's like, you know, when you're, you know, up there performing, when you're the front man, the singer, and whatnot, okay, you're either a good singer or you're a good front man.
Mm-hmm.
The chances of being both are pretty unlikely. The only difference, the only person that I can think of who has, you know, a great voice and is also a great front man is Bruce Dickinson. But it's just like one thing I heard about Bruce Dickinson is that, I mean, the guy studied opera. I mean, he's been doing it for years. But what he does is, before his shows, he'll literally be running around, jogging, and singing at the same time. So that way he knows how to use his voice and still move around.
Maintain
Whereas
the
with
voice while
most
he's
people,
running.
when they have the nice voice, they don't move around a lot because they're trying to concentrate on, you know, hitting the notes, you
Right.
know, or whatnot.
I saw Maiden a couple years ago in Wisconsin, and they had a stage where Nico's drum set's in the middle, and it kind of goes up, and there's kind of a space between the stage. There's probably like 10 feet between, you know, it kind of comes in. And Bruce is on the top level of this thing, and he's singing Run to the Hills. And as he's singing, he launches across that 10 feet, across that drum set, and he run to the hill, and never missed a beat. You would not have known he was running, and he just launched across that. And I thought, wow.
Picture him singing as he's flying through
Yeah,
the air.
and he didn't miss a beat, man. That's, you know, I kind of wish he should have been on my list too. I really wish I'd thought about that. But yeah, I mean, I guess I never thought about that, how he must practice that because he's never out of breath.
Right.
Yep.
Well, you look at Vince Neil, and it's just like half the songs, you know, he wants you to sing because he's out of breath. But,
Or they use backing tracks.
you know, yeah.
They even admit that they use backing tracks. They had an interview, and Vince was going like, "Yeah, I'm using backing tracks on this, you know, on this
Really?
show."
Yeah, well, they have
Let's
another
do it.
guitar player, too, underneath the stage, too, because there's no way Mick does that big sound by himself. And my wife was like, oh, that's not true. And then we saw it, and I'm like, hear this? You hear how there's two guitar players playing right now? But you only see one? She's like, yeah. You know,
Karabi's underneath.
could be. He's not doing so well right now anyway, so he's got nothing else going on, you know.
That was another frontman I was thinking of that just loved it, and then now he kind of stopped or kind of dropped off, was Tom Araya of Slayer.
What do you mean dropped off, though?
Well, like if you watch the Big Four, you listen to the Big Four, like he can't maintain it anymore. Doesn't do the
Oh.
yell for Angel of Death. Does a line, audience does the next line. Does the third line, audience does the fourth line. He keeps going back and forth. I'm like, oh, this is horrible, dude. Come on.
But honestly, couldn't he just mumble a lot of that stuff? I mean, really, who picks out the lyrics when he's singing, though? I mean, he's so aggressive sounding, you know? I mean, I mean, I hate to say it, but a lot of those bands, there's got to be a date on that, you know? Because how well can you maintain doing all that old, you know? I mean, Les Paul was in his 90s when he died, and he still was playing, but he was playing a lot easier things, you know?
Oh, yeah, but
But I wonder. I mean,
burst my bubble, why don't you do this?
oh, but you can do it to me constantly.
That's right, exactly.
It makes me wonder though about Steven
How's that?
Tyler. I mean, the guy's, you know, is probably still one of the most energetic people out there, and he's, you know, really old. But I think a lot of it has to do is he's conditioning himself so that he can able to still do it.
That's all they know. I mean,
I blame
Yep.
drugs.
pretty much.
Drugs.
Yeah. I mean, you know, well, you know, I just saw Kiss a couple months back, and Paul Stanley was one of the most energetic shows I had ever seen. So, and he's 66, something like that.
Right.
So it's like, wow, you know, I guess you can maintain it if you really want to. You know, I'm not saying his voice was the greatest, but you know, the show he put on was just every bit as awesome as any other time.
Bringing up Aerosmith, and we talked about Kiss earlier. The one thing I found interesting was when they toured together. Critics, other people, you always heard, you know, Kiss is getting old. They need to hang it up. This is getting dumb. They're getting too old for this. Aerosmith sounds great. They're the most wonderful. Wow, I can't believe they've been doing this all the years and be the same person. It's like, well, Aerosmith is older. Why, you know, what's the difference? But
Only by 4 years.
Well,
yeah,
you
but
know,
still.
the thing about it though is just metal
We're
music.
comparing Cinderella and Britney Fox here.
Metal music in general, we've never had that respect that that everybody else has. And believe, you know, Aerosmith doesn't want to say they're part of that, but they are. You know, same thing with Zeppelin and all that too. They are a part of that no matter what happens.
Not sure if I'd put Zeppelin as part of it, but why not be happy or live with the fact that you helped inspire this to such an extent? Because the last thing Jimmy Page wants to be incorporated with at all is a hard rock or metal band. He hates that. I've read this for years.
And you know, and I'm not saying they are, but they bridge. There's a bridge in there that they've built that goes to that other side. You know what I mean? And
Well, like I
there's
say,
certain
you
bands.
influenced this.
And same thing with Def Leppard. Absolutely denies that they're part of hard rock metal or the hair metal scene. It's like you absolutely were.
Yet they will say they were the first one to do it.
Yeah, you know.
Or Joe will.
I just say embrace it, man. Be part of it. And you know, the thing about metal fans is that we're so deep and we're so committed and love that for so long. You know, how many Rick Astley fans are there still out there? You know, or Color Me Bad and all that stuff. But we were the ones in high school that loved this stuff and still do.
I love what I think it
Well,
was
I don't
Rob
know what
Zombie.
still do part, but yeah.
I
You
think
like
it was
Rick
Rob.
Astley? Shut up.
I like one song from New Kids on the Block, and that's it, man.
Get out of the show.
Wasn't it you that once said it doesn't matter what you listen to, there is no such thing as...
Ruin my street cred, man.
Dude, you
Edit that out. Good Lord, man. Put me out of here.
there is no such thing as a guilty pleasure, was your exact words.
I don't think I said it that way.
Yes, you did. You
what
said
I
on
said
Facebook,
was,
man.
what I said was, I think everybody could have a good song, no matter who it was. But
No,
you don't gotta admit it in
you
public.
said there's no such thing as a guilty pleasure. What you like is what you like.
I was probably drinking.
Oh, sure, go blaming that.
But yeah, I mean,
Why do you think I'm very careful about what I say on Facebook so it doesn't come back to haunt me?
Exactly.
Well, just make up stuff anyway.
It's not like we're talking out on the street here. You put it on Facebook, the entire world knows it.
Yeah, well, whatever.
Now that we've thrown Mick under the bus, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Tank, thanks for coming up.
Thank you for having me again.
Anything else you wanted to say, or did we get all your stuff out there?
Pretty much got all my stuff out there. So.
All right. What's the website?
OutlawSaint.net.
That's N-E-T. Mick, it's been fun.
Yeah, it's been all right.
Take care, mentally defective ones. We'll see you next time.